Even other countries ensure that they recognize our military men and women. When I was in Normandy at the 60th anniversary of D-Day, I took this picture of the American flag flying over the French flag. This is actually something pretty incredible. The people in Normandy realized and did this because they remembered what our military had done for them and the sacrifices they had made. When my family travels, we try to take time to remember those who have served. Like when we go to Hawaii and visit the Pearl Harbor Memorial. If you go, you can still meet Pearl Harbor veterans at the memorial that were actually there. And we have Pearl Harbor survivors here today. Pearl Harbor veterans have a saying, remember Pearl Harbor. For if we forget or let our guard down, something similar could happen again. Some of the older students will remember Warren Hutchins, who spoke about 3 years ago. He was a Pearl Harbor survivor. He told a funny story about running out of bazooka shells and only having chickens to fire if they asked him to take another round out. I don't know if you remember that, but that was pretty funny. Sadly, this was the last school that Warren spoke at. He told me after our Veterans Day service of all the schools he spoke to, and he spoke to over 100, ours was his favorite. And we had the best Veterans Day program he had ever attended. The number of Pearl Harbor survivors is decreasing quickly. We are fortunate to have Hutch speak to us. At his funeral, he asked for the pastor to tell everyone he wanted to see each one of them in heaven. And if they hadn't asked Jesus Christ to be their Lord and Savior, he wanted them to do so he could see them again. I bring up Hutch because Pearl Harbor survivors are easy to recognize. Many times they will be wearing a white military hat and a Hawaiian aloha shirt. Also, many people who served in the military will wear blue hats with gold trim, or black hats with gold trim that say they're a veteran of a war or where they served. Also, they may have a jacket or a hat with Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, or Coast Guard on it. This year's school theme is going the extra mile. Many times that can be something we never thought we would have the strength to do, like when a soldier fights in a war and has to face the real possibility of death. But other times, going the extra mile is not nearly as difficult. It just takes being observant and willing to take a moment to notice who is around you. I have taught my children to do this. After church one Sunday, we were walking by a car, and Jessica and Sterling pointed to a license plate that said Pearl Harbor Survivor. We wrote a note saying thank you for their service and left our phone number. That car belonged to Robert Thomas, who is here today. We get to see him almost every Sunday now in front of Mariners Church. He sits down on the bench before the second service at 10:30 for about 15 minutes. He is a 1941 Naval Academy graduate, and he received the Navy Cross, our nation's second highest award, for his actions and the actions of his men during the attack on Pearl Harbor on board the USS Nevada. Sometimes the things are easier to notice, like last year when Walter Ehlers, who is the last living D-Day and one of only 18 World War II Medal of Honor recipients, spoke with us. His Medal of Honor and ribbon are easy to recognize. I noticed them when I was walking off the beach in Normandy, and that's how I met him. And many veterans will wear some of their ribbons and medals, especially around Veterans Day and Memorial Day. We need to remember and make sure that we thank all of them when we see them. I read yesterday that during World War I, there were over 16 million men and women who served. There are only 4 alive today. We need to thank our veterans while they are with us. The average age of World War II veterans is 86 years old. We are blessed to have them here with us today and need to recognize them while we still have the chance. I was on a field trip recently with Trinity and Mrs. Moe, and we went to the Newport Beach lifeguard station. We were getting ready to leave when we noticed a gentleman, again in a familiar blue and gold trim hat. We went over to him and found out he was a Pearl Harbor survivor. We thanked him for his service and asked where he was during the attack and what he did. It only took a couple of minutes, but he thanked Trinity for taking the time to say hello and thank you. As you attend Mariners, you are reminded of the sacrifices of veterans because of our incredible school and this program that they put on. And I want you to remember to go that extra mile that you've learned about this year and look for veterans that they thank you for their service. I hope you will continue to do so once you leave Mariners and go on to high school, college, and have your own families. Take time to honor veterans by attending Veterans Day and Memorial Day programs and actually seeking them out to say thank you. Also, throughout the year when you see active duty military personnel in uniform walking by or eating lunch, just politely say, "Excuse me, I just wanted to thank you for your service." Or when you see a white Pearl Harbor hat or a blue hat with gold trim or a black hat with gold trim, stop them and say thank you for a couple minutes and ask where they served. I mentioned Pearl Harbor because of the survivors saying, "Remember Pearl Harbor." Also because, as the saying goes, you are never forgotten if somebody remembered you. My family will remember Warren Hutchins, Robert Thomas, Mal Middlesworth, and other Pearl Harbor survivors we know, and I know many of you students will as well. I like to tell the Pearl Harbor survivors when I meet them, if my kids live to be 90, which is basically about the age these Pearl Harbor survivors are, you will be able to say that you knew somebody that was at Pearl Harbor, and you remembered somebody at Pearl Harbor, and you were able to speak with them. If you students do that when you were 90 years old, you will be talking about somebody that you knew that was an event that will live in infamy 150 years earlier. The next time you hear the Star-Spangled Banner or say the Pledge of Allegiance, think about the men and women who have served our country for over 235 years. Remember their sacrifices they made, leaving behind their homes, families, and to go fight around the world. Remember those tiny remember those tiny handprints on the grave of the soldier buried in Arlington who gave his life for another family's child. Remember to go the extra mile and politely stop veterans when you see them and say thank you. And ask them when and where they served. Remember to take the time, even if only for a moment, to thank them for making this decision to serve our country so we can be free. In the Marine Corps, we say Semper Fi when we see another Marine. It means always faithful, first to God, then to country, and then to Corps. I want to thank Mariners for all they do to make Veterans Day special for our veterans, for our grandparents, and for our students. I always tell people what an incredible job our school does and that our students truly understand the importance of Veterans Day. But I want to especially thank the veterans here today for their sacrifice and service to our country. We are truly blessed to have them with us. Thank you, and Semper Fi.